The future we were promised is here. The jetpacks of your childhood dreams are available to buy right now. You just have to be willing to pay a lot for them. Jetpacks, flying cars, and floating cities all seem like things that were promised to be in the future when we were kids. While our dumb cars are still trapped on the ground, there are several jetpacks that offer you the chance to feel like Iron Man. Well, just not with all that armor. Yet.
Next time, baby.
You see, in May of 2021, a demonstration by United Kingdom Marines made big headlines. It was a display of new tactical technologies that might be put to wide use in the future. Tech firm Gravity Industries supplied the Marines with their very own working jetpacks. We got to see the pilot lift off from a large inflatable boat. Then he hovered over and eventually landed safely aboard the HMS Tamar. Gravity Industries calls this their jet suit. It features a large jet engine strapped to the pilot's back. Then to complete the Iron Man fantasy, it has two more strapped to each hand for navigational purposes. The top speed for this baby is an astounding 80 miles per hour. It can also reach an altitude of 12,000 feet with 300 pounds of thrust. So how much did this set the British government back? Well, each one is priced at $440,000. That might seem like an extravagance, but according to the military, it might be the opposite. They said while they don't have any in use at the moment, the usage of the jet suits could in fact reduce the cost of many different operations. Now all they need to do is throw in some Iron Man armor with a little hot rod red. Would that really be so hard? If you told me when I was a kid playing with G.I. Joe action figures that in my future I'd see governments competing to literally get their prototype jetpacks off the ground, I think I'd be in a different profession today. As of right now, there is one government in Southeast Asia that apparently has started using jetpacks in some capacity, though the specifics as to which country are apparently classified. I mean, I know obviously, but you really don't have the clearance for that level of intel. Jetpack Aviation is the lucky company that has secured this secretive military contract. They have sold their latest model, the JB12, for active service, though they only sold 2 models. Still, this brought them in a tidy $800,000 for the pair. We don't know what the JB12 looks like because it really is classified, but looking at their other models should tell us enough. The enormous pack sits on the pilot's back, weighing 105 pounds. Then the 6 turbojet engines shoot the pilot into the air. The top speed for this baby is upwards of 120 miles per hour. While the company hasn't gone in for any Iron Man aesthetics, that doesn't mean that they don't like to show off like their Stark Industries. They famously took their model flying around the Statue of Liberty. This is only one of several high-profile viral videos that the company has used to hype up their tech. Yeah, these guys definitely have the coolest job I've ever seen. Though there have been some companies who have tried to design jetpacks for normal people like you and me to use, most jetpack prototypes are built with military use in mind. There's one jetpack application that has a much cooler intention in mind: fighting fires. That's way cooler than anything Dick Wolf would show you on Chicago Fire, that's for sure. In Dubai, traffic is a real problem, so when a building catches fire, it's not always easy for their firefighters to get to the scene in time to help. Now, instead of trying to fix this traffic problem, they picked the coolest possible solution. The city funded a program to give their firefighters enormous jetpacks so that they could take to the air and blast the fires away with giant hoses. These packs reach a maximum altitude of 3,000 feet with a top speed of 45 miles per hour. Unlike other packs, these are actually hydro packs that shoot blasts of water underneath the pilot to propel them into the air. So yeah, this is basically the coolest take on Super Mario Sunshine I've ever seen. Each of them go for around $150,000. They ended up purchasing 8 of them initially for the city. That count has now reached upwards of 20 for the coolest firefighters in the world. This isn't actually that strange for Dubai though, because they also looked into using enormous $150,000 hover bikes for their police force. That's only slightly cooler than the police officers of Dubai who drive around in souped up Lamborghinis. Not any Lambos either, but full-blown Aventadors, which can go for like 400 grand a piece. Let's be real though, the jetpacks are still cooler. I'm sure they have epic calendars too. Anyone who ever saw the James Bond film Thunderball probably wondered where they could get Bond's awesome jetpack that definitely doesn't look like Sean Connery's on a green screen. Well, unlike some of Bond's sillier gadgets, this one was actually a real-life product that was being developed for possible military applications in the 60s. In 1965, Bell Aerosystems snagged a contract with the American military, more specifically the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, or DARPA. They were hired to create an experimental pack with a jet engine designed to propel a single soldier into the air. They called their creation a jet flying belt, or simply known as just a jet belt. Wendell Moore and John K. Hulbert, a specialist in gas turbines, designed the pack. The Williams Research Corporation then built it to Bell Aerosystems specifications. The pack was a surprising success. It had a thrust of 430 pounds with a theoretical top speed of 84 miles per hour. The military spent $150,000 on the pack's development, then it apparently cost another $50,000 for the design to fully come together. The pack had a successful flight on April 7th of 1969. While this was a huge success for the company, the military wasn't so convinced. The pack wasn't very maneuverable, it was heavy, and was very complex to maintain. The device was also deemed to be incredibly dangerous. Just landing the thing could apparently be pretty painful. Then there was the risk of the slightest malfunction sending the pilot to his grisly end. So yeah, it just didn't have the kind of military application they were going for. The entire project was scrapped, and designer Wendell Moore perished from a heart attack later that same year. Still, he probably got to see James Bond use a jet belt in 1965's Thunderball. That's something at least. When it comes to making science fiction fantasies come true, there's perhaps no one more up to the task than Adam Savage. He spent years as one of the Mythbusters, putting every single sci-fi possibility to the test. So it's no surprise that Savage is obsessed with Tony Stark, the self-made Avenger. He has frequently been seen at conventions wearing giant movie-accurate sets of armor. Each of these pieces he, of course, built with his own two hands. While that would be enough for most nerds, Savage is not most nerds. He had to make one that actually flies with real jet propulsion technology, because of course he did. Savage decided to go further than any fan had ever done before. He wanted to look at the exact tech a real-life Tony Stark would use to make his famous suit fly. He actually teamed up with none other than Gravity Industries to bring his Iron Man dreams to life. He took their famous jet suit technology that already resembles Iron Man's style anyway, then he got personal lessons from the man himself. Richard Browning was all too happy to show off his skills. Then they took Savage to flight school, where he slowly learned how difficult flying like Robert Downey Jr. would be in real life.
That was the most fun I've ever had with 1,000 horsepower in my whole life.
He also teamed up with the Colorado School of Mines. They have an advanced 3D printer that actually works with titanium. So when they asked him what his dream project would be, he giddily asked if he could make himself an Iron Man suit. His entire fantasy apparently ran up to around $325,000. Eventually, Adam Savage combined his 3D printed costume with GI's jet tech. This ended with the coolest cosplay anyone has ever seen. We got to see Iron Man fly in real life at last. Now all he needs to do is add those repulsor blasts. You know he's thought about how to do it. By far the most practical usage of a jetpack is not on Earth at all. In outer space, they are not only practical, but essential for safety. While earthbound, a jetpack has to produce a massive amount of thrust to lift people into the air. In space, they have the opposite problem. Anyone who has seen Gravity can tell you that it is all too easy to get lost in the weightlessness of space. So these propulsion units are essential for spacewalks, allowing astronauts to keep a position relative to their spacecraft or space station. While terrestrial packs have to generate a ton of force, the spacebound ones have to use a small amount of thrust to keep steady. Astronauts are literally using these above you right now. This includes the Simplified Aid for EVA Rescue, otherwise known as SAFER. While that seems simpler, they are a lot more expensive than these other 400 grand packs. SAFER cost $7 million to develop. I'd say it was worth every penny. So would Sandra Bullock. Google's research laboratory, known as Google X, was said to be developing jetpack technology. They evidently created a model that wouldn't be as dangerous as most jetpacks are, though that wasn't their big problem with it. The model was incredibly loud and very, very fuel inefficient. X's Astro Teller told reporters that it was louder than a motorcycle. He could also only travel 1/4 of a mile to the gallon, so pretty much the only place you could fly it to was a gas station. James Hobson has apparently made a fully functioning lightsaber that burns at 7,000 degrees. I wonder how long it will be before the Dubai police force carries them.